Welcome to the July Carmel Clay School Board regular session. We're delighted you could join us. To get us started, I'd love for you to join us in a round of happy birthday to celebrate Dr. Teagarden. Although his birthday is tomorrow, we are convening this evening, so let's round of applause. And so, go ahead, Pam. Go ahead. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
No problem.
And with that, Mrs. Freed, will you please take roll?
I believe that we are all present. All board members are present and in tune.
Oh, how kind of you. Okay, with the Pledge of Allegiance, Dr. Teagarden, will you please lead us?
Absolutely.
Next on the agenda, we have our district update, which is our Spotlight on Excellence, which gives us an opportunity in the district to showcase and celebrate some of the positive, innovative ideas that are floating around that will benefit our students. So, Dr. Dudley, actually, please get started.
Great, thank you. This last week on July 17th and 18th, we had held our annual administrator retreat, and our theme this year was Hitting It Out of the Park. It was a baseball theme. And Mrs. Spannenberg started us off. She kicked off the retreat by saying a few words and also throwing out the first pitch. It was a great big ball that she threw out our first pitch to Dr. Teagarden, and I'll be happy to say her pitching skills are excellent. She got that right on target there. But as we looked at planning our retreat, we wanted to make sure that whenever we go to start to plan professional development, we want to use feedback from the participants in the professional development to make sure that we're differentiating to meet their needs. And one of the activities that we engaged in the spring, last spring, we continuously look at our school improvement process and continuously look at the needs in our schools each year, develop a school improvement plan. And one of the activities that our schools looked at is they were focusing on what are the needs of their buildings. And one of those needs that came to the top, actually in all 15 of our schools, what that was identified was that the focus on collaborative learning in the classrooms. And so obviously that was one of our main focuses as we looked at our retreat. And so when we look at collaborative learning, it is very much a critical component of our responsive instruction. The research is very clear. When students are engaged in that collaborative learning, they learn more, and they also retain the information longer. And that effective collaborative learning, when students are engaged in that effective collaborative learning, they focus on application, problem solving, on discovery of information, on principles, and also of concepts. And you can see some of our administrators there focusing, being engaged in collaborative learning with our, is that you, Mr. Newman?
It is.
Yeah.
I don't look very collaborative. Right?
Very thoughtful.
He's being thoughtful, yes.
We failed miserably, by the way.
So the focus on the 2 days in the retreat, we engaged our administrators in that collaborative learning. And on day one, we really looked at refining skills in leading and coaching teachers towards implementing that effective collaborative learning. So our administrators engaged in problem-solving activities. One of those, as you can see a picture here, was the Marshmallow Challenge, where the administrators had to work collaboratively to build a structure, the tallest structure using balls, the marshmallow, they had one, and bats, 20 strings of spaghetti, which were our bats, and they had a little bit of string and a little bit of tape. And they had to work collaboratively to problem solve to make the highest structure. We also engaged our administrators in refining that knowledge and also building those skills through coaching clinics. In these coaching clinics, we had differentiated small group, collaborative groups all throughout the building where they got to choose the area that they wanted to focus on and learn more about that, and also engage with their colleagues in conversation about that, to learn about that, to help, where do we need, as we have our teachers, how do we want to move them forward, where are the needs in our own specific buildings. And then we also had them refine and reflect using a variety of tools. Towards the end of day one, they had the opportunity, of course, at every baseball game you go to, you have the opportunity to get souvenirs. So they had the opportunity to look at those souvenirs, pick up those souvenirs in a variety of different tools and research that they could choose to get, and then the next day those souvenirs were delivered to them as they looked at those pieces. And then on the second day, we continued to engage our administrators in that collaborative learning, and we focused on student data and really looking at how coaching our teachers, looking at that, collecting that data, analyzing that, organizing that data, analyzing that data in order to set very rigorous student learning goals. And that's our goal in that responsive instruction. We need to make sure we know our students. And how do we use the tools that we have more effectively, and how do we lead and coach our teachers to those tools? So as we looked at that collaborative learning, we explored research and discussed possibilities in using multiple measures in demonstrating student learning. We immersed all of our administrators in using our tools and really engaging in those tools and what that would look like. We have some new tools in Pinnacle that our administrators had the opportunity to experience, and also analyzing that data and using different tricks with Excel databases as well. And then we also had the opportunity, our administrators collaborated with each other to really plan and kick the season opener off for August 12th. So they could plan for that season opener and looking at kicking the school year off and using these tools. The feedback that we received was very positive, and you can see this is just a sampling of some of that feedback, where the administrators really appreciated the opportunity to collaborate with their colleagues, to have the opportunity to learn about different tools, experience those tools, and to really get in sync for the next steps, which would be our August 12th season opener. So overall, those 2 days were a great success, and I do appreciate Mrs. Spanenberg and Mrs. Freed and Mrs. Hackett for joining us for parts of our retreat. It was very much appreciated. And so it was a fun time, but a great mix of that hard work, professional development for our administrators.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dudley, and we certainly did appreciate the invitation, the open invitation to attend and observe and really learn what was going on throughout the course of the day. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Excellent. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Then moving right along to consent. May I get a motion to approve consent?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Tricia has it. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion is adopted. Next, we come to the middle school science text title changes, and with that, we turn to Dr. Dudley.
This is a change. We have some magazines in our middle school science materials adoption. Our middle schools, they have 3 different magazines, and one of those magazines is now out of print. And so our middle school science teachers looked at some other options, and these were the 2 options that they came up with to replace that magazine that is currently out of print. So the recommendation is to replace the the Science Illustrated with Scholastic Super Science and National Geographic Extreme Explorer. And these 2 magazines will actually be the same price as that one that's going out of print, so they'll actually get 2 resources, and it will not change our materials rental fee at all. But we're asking for the approval of these 2 new magazines and eliminating that out of print one.
Excellent. Thank you very much. May I get a motion on the table?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. Mrs. Niles?
Yes, I just want to say that I think the National Geographic choice is great, because when I had my 3rd grade classroom, we used National Geographic a lot, and they just absolutely loved it and what it taught and the pictures and everything. So just a comment.
Thanks. Any other questions, comments? Okay, great. Well then, We'll take a vote. All in favor of supporting this recommendation signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Dillon bringing to us 2 bylaws for approval. Thank you very much, Dr. Dillon. May I get a motion on the table?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Phillips, discussion? Okay, excellent. Well then, let's take a vote. All in favor of supporting bylaw 142.3? Aye. Thank you. Next.
And the second bylaw for consideration tonight is bylaw 0.
May I get a motion on the table? I know. Oh, yes. But I did say. Greg, thank you very much, Mr. Phillips. Second?
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
Clearly, I'm evidence that we really need this policy.
The poster child.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Freed. Any other comments or questions? Wonderful. Let's take a vote. All in favor of supporting bylaw 142.5? Aye. Thank you. Motion carries. Next, we turn to Dr. Teagarden.
We are bringing back before you, for your consideration, the proposal that we placed before you at your last meeting, and I'd like to preface this by saying that I really appreciated the questions you raised and the comments we received just a couple of weeks ago, and the email conversations we've had in the interim. I think that, and hopefully, we've structured this in a way, there's just a little bit of tweaking, but hopefully it will address the issues that you raised and the questions that you ask. And as I say, we're placing it back before you this evening. Just a bit of a background, somewhat repetitive, but it seems to me this is a fairly transparent proposal. And as I explained the last time we met, the reason for it, it's a compensation proposal that deals with all members of our staff, professional and classified, with the exception of those persons, those professionals who are covered by our collective bargaining agreement. In normal circumstances, when the collective bargaining unit here and elsewhere that I've been agrees to a contractual agreement for compensation, salary, benefits going into a next year, all other employee groups that are not covered by a formal bargaining unit then have their compensation set at least loosely based on the agreement that was reached with the union or the association, with whomever the bargaining agent is. As you know, as everyone knows, last year we were unsuccessful in reaching that agreement through our collective bargaining process. And just as a parenthetical, we are very hopeful that we'll be able to alter that and rectify that situation during this coming bargaining session, that we'll get back on regular track with the bargaining that commences on or about August 1st. But in the absence of that agreement, none of our other employee groups received any changes to their benefits or compensation dating back at least to last January, but in most cases back to this time last year, back to July of 2012. So what we have done is we have proposed that to address that situation, we turn the card around for hopefully just this 1 year, and that starting with for retroactively for all of the employee groups that are listed in the proposal, that we establish their compensation based on the items that we placed in the proposal. And this, by the way, rather loosely but fairly closely mirrors what you have referred to as your best offer during the bargaining period last year. To be differentiated from the last offer, the final offer that is now being adjudicated at the state level. And the reason for that is that the rules of the game change after the bargaining period ends, and you're no longer able to access all of your resources. For the final offer that you have to place before the state agencies, you're permitted only to utilize resources that have been collected, revenues that have been collected in the preceding year. During bargaining, we're in the fortunate position that we have more resources than that. We have the resources that we're anticipating collecting during the year, plus a cash balance that we've accumulated over many years. And not that we're advocating or that you want to spend it all, but it's there to utilize in any way you deem appropriate. But your effort and your interest has been in utilizing a portion of it to make sure that compensation is provided all of our staff members. And a good number of those dollars were placed on the table during bargaining last year, and we would anticipate that we know, because you granted us the authority to bargain again, that same case will be true during the upcoming bargaining session. So what we have proposed is that retroactively we recognize those employees outside the formal collective bargaining group with the compensation levels that we proposed for 2012-13. And that once adopted, those adjustments would be made to those salary schedules and in the pay and compensation of those individuals. We also have suggested to you, or proposing to you, that a very comparable compensation set of proposals be enacted for those same employee groups for this year, 2013-2014. And in that way, we will avoid the possibility of those persons, those groups of employees, being not denied, but deferred compensation going into the other year. Our intent then, as I say, what we would hope to do, and we're optimistic that we can do, with the authority that you've granted us, is to flip this back around. And when we go into our collective bargaining session, one of our objectives will be to reach agreement on a contract for 13-14, and if at all possible for 14-15, and get back on the normal cycle. So with that as kind of a background and explanation, we place this proposal before you and for your consideration and hopefully for your concurrence.
Thank you very much, Dr. Teagarden. May I get a motion on the table?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Just want to comment in these very tight economic times. I appreciate the administration taking the time to reflect on the questions and concerns that the board had and that the past meeting and through the past couple weeks, taken a time to better define the salary and benefits proposal and bringing forward a proposal that does most closely mirror that of the association's best offer. And with that, I will open the floor for discussion. Mr. Phillips.
Thank you, Madam President. Dr. Teagarden, I think I know the answer to this, but I want to revisit the question of the last best offer, meaning the real, actual best offer. I think I've understood throughout the negotiation process that if somehow both sides were to reach an agreement on the 2012-2013 contract, which is still up in the air, prior to the state imposing one of the LBOs, that we could still offer essentially the same deal that we're talking about offering to all of our other employees. Am I correct?
That's contrary to my understanding, but I'll ask. I mean, I don't know that you can unring that bell, but we could certainly, if that's an interest, or if it was an interest that was presented to us, we could formally have that considered. But I don't know.
I guess it wasn't a very sharp question.
Yeah.
Let me take another run at it. My question is whether the board would still have the flexibility to, prior to the state imposing one of the two LBOs, would we not have the ability to offer essentially the same deal to teachers that we're offering to non-teachers with the current motion?
Excuse me. I'm hesitating because there's assumption that if the parties, normally in a process, you're encouraged to continue to mediate. In our process, you first go to mediation before you go to fact-finding, because there's typically an interest in trying to get the parties to settle themselves rather than having somebody else decide for them. And so from that perspective, and realizing all these statutes are new, there is some underlying assumption that if the parties announced that they had come to terms, that the fact finder or the state would accept that. However, that's really not what the statute says. It doesn't contemplate that. It simply says that after this period of time, the process moves to a last best offer scenario, and that at that point you cannot, as they use the term, deficit finance. So we're not sure of that. We certainly early on made that assumption in the process last year.
Well, and I would say that given that opportunity, I certainly would do everything that I could to bring that back before you and to pursue whatever judgment.
I'm glad to hear that. That's consistent with my understanding of the thinking of the board, that I think we all intend to treat our employees as well as we possibly can. And moreover, we fully intend to treat all of our groups of employees equitably as much as we possibly can.
Well, if given that opportunity, certainly that information will be
Given that
brought before
opportunity.
you. Yep.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Other comments, questions? Ms. Snouse?
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Teagarden, for your explanation of the proposed salary increases. The discussions the board has had regarding these salary increases have been very productive, especially the session held on Thursday of last week. Prior to the last board meeting, the salary proposal was adjusted at the last minute, and most board members didn't have a chance to read the new proposal until right before the board meeting, as we all know. It was clear during the board meeting that some of the financial facts with which the board was to make a decision were not all understood or agreed upon at that time. With those in mind, the board felt it was important to table the proposal until tonight so that further discussion could take place. I understand that this action was misconstrued by some to indicate some board members did not value the support staff. Please understand that this was not the reason this vote was tabled. Having worked in this school system for approximately 30 years as a substitute, a classroom aide, a teacher, and now a school board member, I am very much aware of the value of all who work here and how important everyone is to the success of this district and the education of our students. Had negotiations followed the schedule established by Indiana Code, and we would have concluded negotiations in January, all of these individuals would now have that raise, so that would not have been an issue. And as board members, we do not take decision-making lightly and always want to ensure that the decisions we make are in the best interest of the students and the school community.
Thank you, Mrs. Smells. Other questions or comments? Yes, Mrs. Hackett?
If I could just comment, I'd just like to take a moment actually to thank the administration for providing such a thorough, well-thought-out, clear proposal that you've just done a really good job, I think, of aligning these compensation increase packages among our employee groups, and I appreciate that. But second, I also like to thank my colleagues on the board, because as Pam alluded to, we listened, we collaborated, and that brought us to a consensus on a decision that I feel supportive of, and it seems that others feel supportive of. And that's not easy, because we are not right now getting a significant amount of new money from the state at all, and balancing that and the needs of our employees and the prudent use of tax dollars. It's going to be a tough issue that we're going to be dealing with here going forward here for a while. So I thank you.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Hackett. Mrs. Freed, mustn't leave you out.
I want to just say thank you, too. I appreciated the time that we were giving to look at the facts a little closer and understand it. I also appreciate some of the changes in the offer as it stands, as it was proposed earlier, and the fact that we now have a stipend rather than an increase, and stipends are not reoccurring costs. I've learned a lot through this process, and I'm really proud to work with this board. And we do value our employees, and we certainly hope that we can show that in the upcoming negotiations.
Thank you very much. Other questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Phillips?
Not a substantive comment, but just a question about parliamentary procedure. The last meeting had us voting to table the motion, which I think Mrs. Hackett offered.
No, she didn't. Mine was voted down.
No.
You motioned to.
We voted to table.
You voted.
You moved it.
Mr. Phillips?
We all as a board voted to table
Right.
a motion. So as a point of procedure, shouldn't we be bringing back to the discussion that motion that was tabled?
Yes, Mr. Phillips, I believe the appropriate first motion would be to move to take the item off the table.
Yes, sir.
And if that prevails, if that is successful, then the next motion would be in light of the proposal that we've made. So it would be in order for someone to move to remove the item from the table.
May I get a motion?
So move.
Second. Okay, discussion on removing the item from the table. Okay, then all in favor of removing the item from the table?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Phillips. Are there other discussion items with regards to this motion? Mr.
Well,
Phillips?
just to kind of continue the train of thought.
Please.
So what is the motion that we're now considering?
The motion we are considering is to approve the recommendation for the salary and benefits proposal for the support staff, administrators, nurses, and the student nurse coordinators for the district for 2012-13 and 13-14.
Okay.
It's not been a motion. It has not been placed, there's not been a motion to adopt that.
It was moved.
Was it moved in second?
I moved it.
Mhm.
Oh, well, then we went
In reverse
Yeah.
order. Yes. Yes, that's...
We did.
Incorrect. I
So-
dozed off again.
No.
That birthday.
All right.
So we have a motion on the table to approve the salary and benefits proposal for the support staff, administrators, nurses, and nursing staff. Are there other items to discuss, or are we ready to take a vote? Okay, I move to vote then. All in favor of supporting the proposal before us? Aye. By saying aye. Motion carried. Moving right along.
Well, if I may make one concluding comment and following up on Pam's comments earlier. This is a complex issue, and I'm glad that you appreciate that. And I think I deserve a good portion of the blame for the confusion of last meeting. And it was difficult, and we got things before you, and as Pam alluded to, had to pull some things away and kind of fly by the seat of our pants, which is never a good thing to do. So I think the way in which it has resolved itself is totally appropriate, and I appreciate your tolerance. Thank you.
You can keep the birthday card, Steve.
It was given to me on a 4-to-1 vote anyway, so or 3-2 maybe.
Okay, Mr. McMichael. Moving on to the pedometer.
Thank you. This evening, for discussion, we are proposing a 3-year pedometer program with Virgin Health Incorporated. We really believe that this program is a continued expansion of our efforts toward developing a culture of wellness in Carmel Clay schools. I'd like to begin by just making a few comments, and then we'll have two people that will actually give the presentation. First, I think it's worth sharing that our health care costs this year are estimated at $16.8 million. Now, that's the total cost, so our employees pay a portion of that, and the board pays a portion of that. We really believe that while this program is estimated to have a cost of a little over $62,500 per year each of the next 3 years, we really believe that that will not be an expense, but will ultimately result in a savings, and we hope a rather considerable savings. Certainly the history of these types of programs would indicate that we may have a return up to $5 for every $1 that we spend. Now, we think it's very important that we not just throw those assumptions out there, but really have a plan that we confirm one way or another what we are saving. And so a significant element of this program will be an assessment of the program that will actually involves assistance from Purdue University and in cooperation or coordination with St. Vincent's, our partner in our wellness center. But we absolutely intend to come back to the board to demonstrate what we have saved, and obviously then it should be very clear as to what impact this program is making, and we fully expect that. So with that, we have, and we also I think that this also will be a tremendous morale booster in these difficult economic times, where unfortunately as we've just discussed, we're really struggling and perhaps not successfully in being able to keep up with inflation as it relates to employees' salary and benefits. And so sometimes a program like this can go a long way when we're not able to do more direct things in terms of salary to demonstrate to our employees that, one, we do care about their health and well-being, and we also care about the premiums that they're sharing and paying, and so indeed if this type of a program has a positive impact on our medical claims, then that will result in savings for everybody, both in the form of less premium that otherwise would be needed to cover the cost of the claim. So this evening I've asked Stephanie Collins with St. Vincent's to present some of the specifics of the program, and then Becky Cheatham, who's a member and I believe co-chair of our wellness committee, to make a few comments on behalf of our employees and our members of our wellness committee. So with that, I'll ask Stephanie to begin.
to do is rather than reading off PowerPoints, is actually log in and show you my account for St. Vincent, so you can actually see what the website looks like. So I'm going to do that in a second. So basically the program itself is interactive. Employees can actually log in to the website that Urban Health provides, and there are actual pedometers that they have. They actually hook up through a cable, and they download their information, so they don't really have to type anything in. My husband and I use the program for his work, and I also use it for St. Vincent. It's really easy, and we can do pedometer, step program, we can do different challenges amongst employees, all kinds of great stuff, and all of those programs will obviously be guided by the employee wellness meeting, and we want to get their input on how it actually is organized. But if you look at that last bullet point, the website is used to track progress, they can log their steps, compete with colleagues, and then also we can put educational information on the website as well. And the competitions can be group competitions, or they can be individual. I'm actually competing with one of my coworkers right now. We started today, over the next 2 weeks. So there's a lot of variety in what we can do. And actually, this is familiar to me, so I might. I'll actually walk into it too, but this is actually, not, yeah. I clicked on the link on the page.
Cursor's going wild.
More technical.
Where's Christy? She wasn't coming tonight.
That's a good idea.
While she's while she's trying to get that going, I'll kind of give you a background on what the Wellness Committee has done. I started with the Wellness Committee 3 years ago, and it kind of grew out of the Insurance Committee. And so there are teachers and nurses throughout the district. We have one from every school, and we get together and discuss ways that we think the employees might like. And so what we've done is, over the last 3 years, we've looked at the walking pedometer programs, and we collected data 3 different times. We sent out a survey monkey, and it went to all of the employees. We also collected data from those that chose to do the wellness screenings, and then Stephanie and then the people from St. Vincent's in the spring went to the schools and had one-on-one discussions on what they might like or had in mind for wellness initiatives. And all 3 of those, it was very apparent that people wanted a pedometer walking program. Now, the committee, the Wellness Committee, last summer, we actually, through another company, we did a field test on pedometers, and it wasn't very successful because the item that the pedometer that we were using, it was kind of big and clunky, and it fell off, and so anyway, we went back to the drawing board, and then it wasn't much longer that we started the initiative started with St. Vincent's. So then Stephanie was able to get us hooked up with the Virgin Health Miles. And the pedometer is much smaller. That was our largest complaint, that the pedometer was too large. And so I feel like the committee has done a pretty good job as far as looking at basing it on the needs of the employees and their wishes. And so it's with that we would like your support, which you've given us great support so far with the wellness clinic. And so we're hoping that you'll consider this.
Thank you, Becky.
All right, here we go. So this is what it looks like, just to give you an idea. This is through St. Vincent Health, and this is the program that they designed with Virgin Health Miles. And like I said, the Employee Wellness Committee will be able to work with the Virgin Health Miles rep as well as myself to design a program. And this one, St. Vincent has been very generous to us. And if you look, these are the steps that we can take. And you get so many HMs or health miles for the amount of steps that you take. So we can design the program and the incentives with that program however we'd like it. So right now, and I just started this past spring before I went on maternity leave. So right now I'm trying to get to 1,200 miles, and once I get to that point, I'll get $125 from St. Vincent. And for us, we can earn up to $500 a year. If you look also up here, there's the challenges section, so you see like there's fruits and vegetables and all different types of things that we can do. But I just wanted to give you guys a chance to take a look at it. You can also not only log your steps, but daily you can go in and log regular exercise. So for people that may not walk, you can log exercise if you're a biker or if you're a swimmer or you go to one of the fitness classes that we're offering. That's an option as well. So I just wanted to quickly show that to you. All the questions. Kind of get back to So that's just a little bit about the program, and the best part about it is that we can make it what the employees want. As wellness coordinator, I'm always looking at what are the benefits. the biggest thing, like Roger said, is we want to create a culture of wellness. We look at this as an extension of the Employee Wellness Center. We look at it as one more tool for employees and those individuals to utilize to improve their health, decrease disease risk, all those things that we're trying to do. And the idea is that they're not just doing it at work, but we want them to do it long term. We want them to do it at home. We want it to be an everyday part of their life. And we really think that this type of program can be something that can help with that creating culture. And then everyone knows the benefits of activity, and I could stand up here for hours talking about it, but we'll see changes with regular physical activity and cholesterol, blood pressure, weight, risks for diseases like heart disease and diabetes. That's a plus for employee health, but it's also a plus because we start to see healthcare cost changes, and hopefully we'll be spending less money on treating individuals with those particular healthcare concerns. Also stress and anxiety, and I know most of us deal with some form of stress or anxiety, and research shows that physical activity can actually decrease that as well. Another biggie, I think, for employees is the camaraderie and teamwork. I've loved working with the Employee Wellness Committee. They're a great group, and that teamwork is evident there. And I think with integrating this into the entire school system, that's just going to enhance it. The one thing that we do at my house and then at work is, how many steps did you get today? You're asking that question. How are you doing with your Virgin Health Miles program? Where are you going to, step up to that next level? So that chatter and that discussion will come across with the employees. The teamwork aspect, we've talked about doing inter-school competitions, school-to-school competitions, and the biggest thing for that teamwork is I think it's going to help with motivating employees and maybe help those outliers, people that maybe need that extra boost to start participating in physical activity. So from my perspective, it's sort of a win-win from every angle. And then obviously increases levels of physical activity. Virgin Health Miles gave me some statistics. 50% of inactive participants achieved and maintained healthy levels of physical activity over 18 months. So what they saw was 50% of the people participating moved from that sedentary to that active. And the best part of that, from moving sedentary to active, is that's where we see the biggest improvements in health and biggest decreases in disease risk. So all around, I think it's a big win-win for everybody. So how are we going to measure success? Free University Regent Street Center for Healthcare Engineering has been working with St. Vincent Health since 2005, and they're going to be coming on board to help us as well, looking at researching how we provide healthcare and wellness initiatives, looking at the effectiveness not only of the Virgin Health Miles program, but all of our wellness initiatives, and looking at return on investment as well. And specifically looking at how we design our programs and then the results of the program. So they'll be able to look specifically at the Virgin Health Miles program and say, this particular program is having this impact. We'll be able to be very specific with what we're offering. And then also, they'll help us analyze changes in the health of employees and just look at the data, and we'll be able to come back to everyone hopefully a year from now and say, this is the impact that this particular program has had. And then I wanted to just show a quick example of what, a potential pedometer program would look like. Of course, the Employee Wellness Committee would be involved with this process. So one example would be that we start a program in September, it runs until December, and we challenge everybody to obtain, 7,000 steps a day or 12,000 steps per day, per se. And then the committee would help determine what the incentives were. Maybe it would be a free personal training session. If they achieve that level 1 of averaging 7,000 steps a day, if they achieve level 2, maybe a free personal training session, and then a $25 gift card. So they would do that throughout the entire fall semester. And then on top of that, we could also add like an inter-school competition, which school averages the highest number of health miles for the website or the highest number of steps, and then most weight loss as well. And they sort of would get bragging rights. I've been involved where, they have a plaque that goes around and moves from school to school, and the next thing you know, it becomes a big deal who has the plaque with example, but we're going to work specifically with Stephanie and the committee on that, so.
Well, thank you very much, Stephanie and Becky. We do appreciate that. And I do open the floor to questions and comments. Mrs. Snells?
Yes, on the proposal, it has a different cost for year one. Is there a reason why there's a discrepancy?
Well, yes, the first year has the cost of the pedometer itself. And so you would only have that cost initially, so that's why the first year is more. But the average is the 62.5, with the first year being, I think, 80-something in the...
So you're saying that that's an average cost of 3 years?
That's right.
Okay.
I should... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah. The cash for the program, will that come from the general fund?
No, actually, two things. The incentives are assumed as a part of the cost. So that's, and one of the attachment that you have indicates that. But the incentives are a part of that $62,000 a year average. And so the employee will be paying $5 to participate in the program. And if they're covered under our health care program, well, I'm sorry, all employees will pay $5. We refer to this as an employee plus one. So everybody, all of our employees would pay $5 a month. And the plus one, if they're not, let's say it's a spouse, but they're not covered under our health plan, then that person would be able to participate, but they would pay $10, which pretty much covers the cost. And so I'm looking for it here, but I'm not finding it. But it's important that I emphasize that the upfront cost for this, we anticipate using federal stimulus dollars. We have a little over $300,000 that we receive from federal stimulus funds to be used for essentially to lower health care costs or expenses. And so this program clearly qualifies for that. And so the upfront funding would come from the federal stimulus dollars, but the savings that we anticipate will be a savings primarily to our general fund and our referendum funding, because that's where most of our premiums are paid from.
Okay. So you're saying, so how after 3 years are we going to receive up to 5 times the cost of the program?
What we expect to see is through the data that Stephanie alluded to, is we expect to see and be able to be satisfied with the data that's provided that this program is having a positive impact on our claims, such that we're hopeful that it may be up as much as 5 times what we pay for the program.
Okay, so it's not actual money coming into the district, it's in savings.
It's in savings, but again, when you have $16.8 million a year worth of health care costs,
Right.
If this program has just a very small impact in that total, you can see that, while this is $60-some thousand a year, that's in a context we're spending $16 million. And so we really expect that our data will show that for every dollar we spent for this, so if we're spending $60,000 a year, we would hope that may have as much as a return as much as $300,000 in lowered health care costs.
So it could show up in premium.
Will show up in premium. Since we're self-funded, our program is pretty straightforward. We have to have enough premium to pay the claims and the administrative costs and so forth. But the vast majority of that $16.8 million is claims costs. And so anything that we can do that has a positive influence on claims, that's what we're striving for. And that's, from a financial standpoint, that's what we're striving for, is to do what we can have some influence on with regard to lowering claims costs. And of course, if that happens, then that's also means that people are healthier, and certainly that's a worthwhile goal, aside from the financial side.
Where is Virgin Health located?
East Coast, as I recall, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Thank you.
If you walk there, you would earn several.
Yeah.
Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, Mrs. Spannenberg. I want to say up front, I'm very enthusiastic about the proposal, and I think you've knocked it out of the park again, Roger, and whoever else worked with you on this. This is just one more great benefit, right up there with the wellness clinic, going back in time, the child care, and then offering our employees a chance to educate their kids here in Carmel if they happen to live outside the district. I think this really helps to solidify our position as an employer of choice. And I did have a question that was along the same lines, I think, as Mrs. Nell's, having to do with the cost. But I guess I'm going to say it myself, that I'm going to assume that with almost near certainty, this program will very quickly yield a net positive gain in our operating funds, so that we can actually look, if things pan out the way we expect them to, we will actually have more money to put more resources into our classrooms because of this measure, which I think is fabulous, just fabulous. The only thing that could make the proposal that much more interesting would be if Sir Richard Branson were to fly in here and personally plug the program.
That's right.
Can you arrange that for us, please? Okay. So, and to your last point, Roger, about the 16.8 million, I ran my calculator a little bit, and to get just break even, all we have to do is to see a reduction of 0.4% of that 16.8 million in order to completely cover the cost of this program. So, my hat's off.
A tangent benefit that I thought about, and I would encourage you maybe to put this in your presentation. It seems to me there's a corporate benefit as well, and that is modeling the right kind of behavior for the children in our classrooms. If a child sees all of their teachers walking every day and being concerned about their health and remaining active and all that kind of thing, it seems like that sends a pretty powerful message from those classrooms to home every day as well.
Again, I think in these difficult financial times that having an opportunity to use federal monies that we receive, that we, of course, typically receive, and monies that are targeted, that is to say we can't use those monies to increase salaries, for example. They have to be used for health care related expenses. There are other choices, certainly, but we're seeing this as one where we think it has absolutely a very real likelihood, really, that that the program will far more than pay for itself, and by having it for 3 years, it takes a while, and so we don't know that in 6 months or even in a year that we wouldn't expect to see the full benefit of the program. But by the time the 3 years are up, and we would be no longer have federal stimulus money, we're either going to see the return that we expect, and we'll be quite happy to continue the program because we'll see that it's more than paying for itself, or it won't, and in which case we haven't used monies that otherwise could have gone to salaries for something that could possibly fail. We certainly don't anticipate that, but so I think it puts us in a pretty good position.
Yes. Mrs. Hackett?
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to burst the bubble here, but this goes back to something that Pam said. It seems historically, at least from what I've read, that it's so hard to figure out that return on investment, that this healthcare initiative equals this savings. Maybe somebody could speak a little bit of how we've progressed, how Regan Street does this. Do they track those specific people that have signed up and see what their healthcare cost differential is, or how do we better track that nowadays? Okay.
This is Dr. Michael Busk. He's the Michael. I'm not sure what your title is, but he's responsible for all of St. V's employee at Work program, and among other things, and has been an absolute integral part of our wellness center and our relationship with St. Vincent's in that regard.
They may tell us that 3 years, it isn't working. And that's what we want to know. We want to know what works and doesn't work to provide the best health care. And our mission is listen. One, promote or improve the health of Carmel Place schools. Two, increase the productivity of Carmel Place schools. And three, lower the health costs. So it's real simple. And this is one of those factors. Virgin Health Miles is also will be participating in this, and they have a lot of data also that's been very, very effective, and we're expecting them to be really transparent in providing the data also.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Basically, I just, like you said, I know it's very complicated, so actually that Regan Street is, even though I'm an IU alum, that Regan Street is following that and making progress, and how to track that specifically is, I don't know, intriguing, and I think probably the next step, so we know exactly what is helping and how much. So, yeah, I appreciate that, because I agree. It's a great benefit, and I think sometimes these side benefits get lost in the shuffle of what we as a corporation offer. And this is a great example, as Dr. or Mr. Phillips said. Just promoted you. Thanks. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. I'll walk away.
Mrs. Freed, yes.
I have one question. It's $5 a month for any employee who participates?
Yes.
That's the cost. What about people that are on the health care plan for Carmel Clay Schools who might be retirees?
Absolutely. Again, if you are, particularly if you're a retiree on the health care program, whether you're retired or active, your claims are in this $16 million. So absolutely, we would encourage retirees to participate in this.
I have a question as well. My question goes more along the lines, we think this is a wonderful program, but if there's somebody who does not want to participate, is this required?
Oh, no.
Is this all
No,
optional?
yeah, totally by choice.
And when they sign up, are they signing up, is it a lump sum that they're paying? Are they signed up for 8 months, or is it a month-to-month type of?
It's a month-to-month. We would hope employees would, either return the pedometer or participate in the program, because the upfront cost is the cost of the device itself. And but we're not intending to make this real complicated or in any way threatening or whatever. We really want, it's like for $5 a month you can try this. We hope you continue, but we're not going to chase you down if you don't either.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes. Mrs. Niles.
Yes, what you, something you just said sparked something. Would this be deducted from their pay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so it would be part of the salary deductions that are on their pay stub?
Yes, we do not plan to handle any cash in the sense of people paying, though. The $5 or $10, whichever the case might be, is payroll deducted. So
the 26 equal pays?
Right.
Okay, so it would go through the summer?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes. And so if the employee, if their spouse, for example, participated, then obviously they don't have a check coming, but the employee does. So the employee we would deduct their $5 and then an additional $5 for their +1.
Other questions? Okay, well, if we do have other questions, we will certainly send those along the way before our
Great.
next meeting.
That'll be great.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Superintendent's report.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have 3 items to either provide an update or some new information. The first has to do with the high school stadium turf. As you know, you've been privy to a number of emails over the past couple of months, and I just wanted to bring that to completion. First of all, to tell you how much we all appreciate Mr. Perkins and his concern and interest and the manner in which he worked with us. It was the way things ought to be done, and I think and I hope Mr. Perkins feels that we were responsive. What we have done, and it was completed last Friday, July 12th, the turf has been remediated, and it has been tested, and in every area it met and exceeded the impact tests that are required in order to have it judged to be safe by the organization that regulates that. They're going to come back in a month and perform those tests again to make sure that that remediation has held as we get into the fall season. And then probably most importantly, as you probably remember from last year, but you'll be seeing again shortly, that turf is scheduled for replacement in next year's CPF. And so sometime between late winter or early spring, that replacement will take place, and we'll have another 10, 11, 12 years of turf that will be in place. And I suppose all of you have heard and know the degree to which that facility now accommodates use compared to when it was grass. It's just astronomical, the increase in utilization we get out of that. But anyway, that if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer, but that's a quick summary of where we are with that project. The second one, and this is new information, I want to kind of introduce this evening and ask you to stay tuned. Roger has had some preliminary conversations, and I'm going to follow up on those later this week with the Carmel Dads Club about the potential for another partnership with that organization in perhaps providing 2 artificial turf practice facilities, one at their complex and one on our in our facilities that could be shared and with the same benefits accrued. An opportunity for many more children, many more days of the year, many more activities to be conducted on those facilities as practice and for competition. And also taking a serious look with them and others at the possibility of converting our Murray Stadium to artificial turf. for the same reason and rationale that was used for the football stadium in the number of safe games that and competitions that could be performed there if that were done. So as I say, I wanted you not to, if you heard about that from some other direction, and that's a possibility, I didn't want you to be surprised, and it's something very preliminary, but as you might imagine, our relationship with that group goes back a long way, and we're off to a good beginning in those conversations, and we'll keep you apprised. And the final item I want to bring to your attention is that, as I think you know, well, I know you know because this has happened even since I've been here, when we staffed our buildings for this coming school year, we did so very conservatively. We looked at enrollment as it existed in the spring and as we were anticipating it to exist, and we took a very conservative view of how many sections of every grade we needed to accommodate at our elementary schools and how we were going to staff our schedules at the secondary schools. We are now in the process, now that we have much more accurate and current information, we look at enrollment by class every week. And today we got this week's report and saw how many kindergartners had come or gone and how many first graders had come and gone in each school. And we're in a process now. We met right at the end of the retreat with the elementary principals to tell them that we were looking at that enrollment and our staff and those teachers that those positions that we didn't fill. We have those set aside. And during the course of this week, we're going to be creating additional sections where we think they're warranted. And the primary focus of that is going to be on the elementary schools because that's where we withheld the positions. And we'll address the class size issue as best we can within the limitations, of course, of the constraints that have been placed on our budget. And we met today, and we're going to conclude, I hope, on Thursday in making those decisions and getting those classes more appropriately sized. So. And again, on any of those, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But that concludes my report.
Well, thank you very much for your comprehensive report. We certainly do appreciate that. Questions or comments from the board? Wonderful. Board members, any comments or questions or any statements? Yes, Mrs. Knowles.
Yes, I just wanted to report that we don't very often hear about students who have graduated from our schools and gone on to bigger and better things, but I was at the United Way breakfast on Saturday. Just so happened they were honoring my daughter. She got the Diversity Award, and she is a Carmel Clay School graduate. And while we were there, I found out that a former student of mine who just graduated from Carmel High School this year was also being honored for his volunteerism, and that was Viva Vavilala, and they couldn't pronounce his name when he got up there. But that was really neat to see him up there and see him being honored as well.
Thank you for sharing, Pam. I appreciate that very much.
And congratulations to you, Doc.
Thank you.
Other board reports? Excellent. Okay, with that, meeting is adjourned. Thank you for joining us.
Breathe deeply. You're welcome. Well, I mean, it was meant to be. I mean, it had to be done, but yes. And we understood that, but we had to get all of our facts together, and it was important that we know exactly where we were going before we did it. So, you're welcome, welcome, welcome.
You deserve it.
Yes.
You totally deserve it.
See, that was what I thought too, Tricia. No.
What?
It was tabled. No, we tabled it. We didn't postpone it, we tabled it.
Yeah. To table it just means, and we tabled it till this meeting, is what we said.